When we hear the word black market, we immediately think of concepts like drugs, human trafficking, and even illegal guns. But as I researched deeper into the topic of the black market, I began to realize the futile existence of laws in the early days and decided to investigate how law enforcement has evolved in importance to society. The concept of the black market was introduced in my book Girl in the Blue Coat, in a relatively positive connotation. With its role supporting the people in need, I almost felt the law enforcement should ignore the black market because of its crucial need in society, although technically it is against the law. I believe that laws are there to suppress the activities that are essentially against the standards society has made, but turn a blind eye to things that actually have a positive influence in society. So this is why I interviewed Mr. Ryan Plakaitis, a former police officer, to see if an actual law enforcement officer has similar ideals. Here is the video clip that shows the interview.
Yeah, that's an easy question, and that's really to protect the public, right? If somebody's life is in danger,
Yes.
or if there's considerable risk to public safety, then that is always the first priority with any profession in law enforcement. And we have systems here in Canada where we assign risk to certain types of calls based on the danger or the level of risk to public safety. So, obviously, if you're doing any type of traffic enforcement, for example, somebody's speeding and a call comes in that somebody's life is in danger, then, as a law enforcement officer, that's always the priority, is to respond to those calls where there's the greatest risk to the public. Well, I think, if you know your history and know what was happening in Germany and surrounding area during that time, the police were unusually cruel. And a lot of the motivation was driven, unfortunately, by race. So, I don't like to consider myself or think of myself what I would do in that time. I think I would like to think that I have a moral compass not to be involved in that type of work if that was the environment that I was operating in.
Yes.
But what I will say is that, law enforcement it's important to understand context and, understand some of the reasoning and the intention behind why people do certain things. For example, if somebody is operating in a manner to keep themselves alive, or if it's food to keep people from starving, then that's a different story than if somebody's engaged in illegal drug trafficking or gun trafficking or human trafficking. So in any type of enforcement circumstance, it's very important to understand contextual factors, which includes motives behind why people are doing what they're doing. And look at other things like who's being impacted by this, what is the harm involved in the activities that are going on, and then be able to use that context to make good decisions, right, that are fair and treat citizens well. So I guess my short answer would be no, based in the context that you're speaking of, but it really depends on the situation and what's the harm that's being caused by people who are involved in activities in the black market.
Mr. Ryan's perspective on the issue was quite similar to mine, as he also believed it essentially depended on the extent of the harm that the people of the black market gave to society. My perspective remained fairly the same, since Mr. Ryan supported my argument on the issue. Although his argument was a bit far-fetched, it was based on historical context regarding the suppression that the Nazi soldiers gave to the people, and that there weren't a lot of things that a police officer could actually do at the time. But he did actually allude to the fact that keeping a blind eye might be helpful to society in the long term. As a police officer, his chief priority was safety, and if it meant that the activities in the black market were safe and beneficial towards society, even police officers could keep a blind eye towards them. I learned a lot more things about law enforcement than ever before, identifying the key concepts and ideals that they should have as an officer, and learning how to be a better citizen. Police officers should keep their moral obligation for citizens' protection, and it is their role in society to keep a fair hand to those that even slightly evade the laws established in society. However, it is also important to note that not all of these actions may be malicious in their own sense, because in rare instances, a larger spectrum of enhancement and development may arise. It was essentially the black market that saved the desolate and broken people during the Holocaust, and exactly the black market that led to the preservation of a stable society. While there are malicious things out there in society, in the future we may have to examine once again if their function is entirely negative or if there is a hint of positivity hidden inside their actions. Thank you.